Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. And don't you remember, not that long ago, well, it seems like a long time ago now, December 19th, and last year, we had the last balance patch we saw, and what did we see in it? We saw a lot of rogue nerfs. We saw Necrolord Draka, Sinstone Graveyard, sketchy information, and Forsaken Lieutenant nerfed. 4 cards, more than any other class, and we're almost a month removed from that, and yeah, Rogue has broken the game. It is pretty much out of control, and it's only going to get worse, and we still haven't heard a word about a balance patch. Before we get into that, of course, I want to give a friendly reminder. If you enjoy the content on the channel, you want to help support the channel, please drop a subscription down below. Give the video a like. It helps out a ton, and I don't know, maybe somehow it gets Rogue nerfed or this situation resolved, because yes, Vicious Syndicate put out their latest Data Reaper report, and it is startling to look at the stats. If you look at all across all ranks, Rogue is by far the most played class, even across all ranks, but it doesn't look that bad, 18%, but that's only getting worse. Week by week, it's building up, and when you look at top 1000 Legend, this is where it gets incredibly startling, where Rogue is at a historic play rate. This is like day 1 Demon Hunter style. This is like Edwin at 3 mana. Rogue makes up 45.5% of the meta in top 1000 Legend, and then 20%, the other 20% makes up Demon Hunter, leaving 40% to be given up amongst the other classes, of which they're all struggling immensely. And this is after a class got nerfed 4 times, including Thief Rogue, you could argue was nerfed 5 times, as that version, that deck, like to run Prince Renethal as well. They don't anymore, but Rogue has this crazy ability to always be top tier, and well, it's mostly because they don't have to spend mana on anything. You take a look at the tier list as well, they just have it broken down. There's only 3 tier 2 decks in the game, or tier 2 or higher. It is just an extremely undiverse meta, at least at top 1000 Legend. Again, Miracle Rogue, Quest Demon Hunter, Spitter Hunter, which a lot of people can't stand that either, and then everything else. Deck power less than 50%, win rate basically less than 50%. You look at Aegis Replay, very similar story. They have the only tier 1 decks, Miracle Rogue, Spell Demon Hunter, Shock Spitter. They say these decks are a little bit more competitive, at least the entire expansion, but those numbers have been dropping. But overall, the meta, it's just incredible to see what Rogue is doing. And I do love this comment that is made here, that since most other decks are dying out, basically no other decks are competing, Miracle Rogue is facing one of its worst matchups, which is the Mirror. That's right, its win rate is going a bit down because Rogues are facing itself so often, and it's so good that it keeps losing to itself, which again pushes its win rate down. Meanwhile, Quest Demon Hunters take advantage of its slight favorability against Miracle Rogue to close the gap between the two. So it's just hilarious that the win rate would be even higher for Miracle Rogue if it wasn't for the fact that it faces itself so often. So what is it about Miracle Rogue that makes it so broken? And the answer is really, they just don't have to spend mana on anything. Brian Kibler put a video out on this. We've been saying this for a long time. Before the last balance patch even happened, I said they were going to nerf around the mana cheat cards. I wanted to see Shadow Step. I wanted to see a card like Shadow Step. I wanted to see a card like Wild Paw Knoll get the hit, because the mana cheat is what's doing it. Instead, we saw Sinstone Graveyard go to 3 mana, which is still utterly broken. Players are hitting like top Legend in Wild playing Sinstone Graveyard still, even with that format. Hell, if you look at the standard list played by Corbett, I think it's only like 5 cards short of just being a standard deck, outside of the counterfeit coins, which cheat mana, and Edwin, which just abuses the mana cheat. It all comes down to just an overwhelming amount of mana cheat. You look at the cards that cheat mana. You have Prep, Shadow Step. You discount a minion, and often it becomes 0 mana, like an Astalor, like a Ghoulish Alchemist, which then doubles up on the mana cheat, which is a mana cheat card itself, getting those concoctions out that are already overvalued for their cost at 3, such as like a 0 mana Sprint. It's pretty good. You have Blackwater Cutlass, which mana cheats based on your spells going forward. This card has just been auto-include busted in most rogue decks since day one. Kind of that sleeper card that people just don't ever bitch about. Even if you look at like the mulligan win rate, you always keep it even though you're just going to trade it away for that mana cheat. And then you have Serrated Bone Spike, which ironically isn't even that great a card currently right now because it requires a minion to hit. And against Demon Hunter, Quest Demon Hunter, there's not really minions to hit. And in the mirror, the minions are like stealth and you don't want to play anything until you pop off. But still, it can cheat out, with, especially when combined with prep. The mana cheat is ridiculous. Of course, Wild Paw Null, when the conjunction with Potion Belt comes out for 0 mana on like turn 2. And you have Scribbling Stenographer, which again becomes 0 mana. So many cards in this deck just cheat an absurd amount of mana. And no other classes really do that. They just don't. The only other class that kind of does it is Quest Demon Hunter with their spell. And guess what? That's the only other good deck in the game. And don't get me started on Thief Rogue that has Swift Scale Trickster that just creates these ridiculous blowouts with jackpot that you just can't possibly answer. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But either way, it creates one hell of a frustrating experience. So it doesn't matter if they nerf 4 times. If they're just going to nerf around the mana cheat, it's going to continue to be a problem. And it just needs to be where cards need to cost mana. Wild Paw Null, don't forget, this already got nerfed to 6 mana last year because it was so problematic. They reverted it for some reason, and it's been a problem its entire run since. It's almost like they had it right the first time, but ironically, if they put it up to 6, I don't even know if it would make a difference now with all the mana cheat engines with it, with its interaction with Potion Belt. But something's gotta give. Something has to give to let other decks have a chance to fight for board. You never can fight for board if everything is always cleared by 0 mana nulls. Everything's cleared by a Bone Spike that cheats something else out. And now if you play your own big threat, Concoctions, remove that with a Deadly Shot. So something has to give. There's gotta be a weakness for the class, and right now it's kind of in that perfect state where they can gain armor with an Astalor to stay alive. They can generate whatever removal, card draw, generation they want from a Potion Belt. They can dictate the early game board with a Wild Paw Null, a Scribbling Stenographer that can blow you out with the Sinstone Graveyard. You can get another copy of whatever broken spell you want. The other part of it is, even if you nerf this deck to death, there's still the Thief Rogue. The Thief Rogue, which does a lot of the same stuff, but it borrows a lot of the same things, like Shadow Step, like Null. And I know we haven't heard about the balance patch yet, but I'm just super hopeful that they don't just be like, well, April's coming, maybe we'll rotate Shadow Step, you know, Null rotates then. We'll just kind of try and get by making something 1 or 2 mana. We've already seen that the change doesn't work. These numbers are only going to get worse before they get better, where the people are trying to come up with meta breakers like Control Paladin and all this stuff. But all you gotta do is look at Rogue, look at its matchup spread, Particular Miracle. It's basically all green except for like 2 bad matchups. And basically when it's stated that a class's worst matchup is literally itself, I think we've got a bit of a problem, and I really hope we get a patch sooner than later that please actually hit these problem cards, that nerf Wild Paw Null, that nerf a Shadow Step, something like that to allow the other decks to breathe, because we're over a month in. We're over a month into this latest expansion, and I feel like we haven't really had an opportunity to explore it because all these broken cards from the past expansions or even the last year are still holding everything back, Demon Hunter Quest included. And by the time the mini set finally comes out, that'll probably be like a week or so that we might even get, you know, a balanced meta-ish, maybe, and that'll just break it. And it's just kind of getting ridiculous. We have to wait so long for these changes when these have been problems that have existed for a lot longer than just the month we've been dealing with them. Anyways, wanted to go off a little bit on how Rogue is so busted, what needs to get changed, and the only way I see it getting better is by Blizzard stepping up and getting a freaking balance patch out there. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.